I'm about to blow. I gotta stay on my hustle, you know that I'm grinding for sure. I came up right from the bottom, now they see me chasing my goals. Now they see me on the go, yeah. Now they see me on the road. It's time to hustle, yeah, it's time to grow. I'ma shoot for the stars and we aim for the gold. It's time to hustle, yeah, it's time to grow.
Yo, what's up everybody? Welcome back to Hustlers, another episode. I'm your host, Loss, and I've got Niall Williams on today. How are you?
You good, bro? A little bit extra happy today. The kids are back at school, baby.
Finally, a day off, eh? My parents are the same.
Pardon?
My parents are exactly the same, eh? They're stoked to
Oh.
get girls back out the door.
Man, it's been a long 4 weeks or 3 weeks. Or I don't even know how long it's been, but it's been long.
What have you been doing?
Just been pretty much put the athlete life to the side the last 2 weeks and just been mum at home with the kids. Man, we've been doing whatever we can to pretty much get through. It's pretty good. The girls got some hard packs dropped off from school from just down the road, so every day kind of get them to do a little bit of homework. Get them outside in the fresh air and just living, man.
Like I guess with your like pretty hectic thing with sevens, like how you're always away in that. This last probably, half a year probably has probably been good for you, like to sort of be back around the girls and around the family a bit.
Yeah, like you said, we have a full-on schedule and we're pretty much like an all year round team, like our schedule. We start kind of October, which is usually our pre-season, and then you usually have a couple of tournaments towards the end of the year and you go right through all the way till June, July, and then it's you get 6 weeks off and then you go again. So and when we go away on tournaments, we're away for at least 2 weeks at a time, and you think we have about six to eight tournaments, so it's a long time of the year to be gone. I've really actually been enjoying being at home. It's been hard obviously with my current situation, but like just the little quality moments that you get to spend with your kids and chilling with them. And the other day I actually me, Tama, and the two girls went for a long walk. I think it was like we just walked down Cameron Road, 3k and then 3k back. And me and my oldest daughter were walking next to each other, and she's 9, and it was just like I was like talking to an adult. I just like during the convo I couldn't believe how not believe how smart she was, but just what she was speaking about and life different things. I was like, this is crazy. And I think it was kind of like those little moments where you think, this is actually really cool to have these times where I can spend a decent amount of time and probably more so be like their friend and hear more of what they have to say rather than just do your homework, come to dinner, like the mum life. So
present, being a little bit more present, because obviously like the athlete life is awesome. Fuck man, like it's so cool and people would give everything up for it, but there are certain things that you do have to sacrifice, and one of those things is I guess time with your loved ones,
100%, bro.
We're going to dive into you talked about your situation there, but we're going to dive into that a little bit later on, things going on currently with you. But I'll quickly make a shout out to our sponsor, and today's sponsor is myself. I'm 138. I'm sponsoring this podcast today. If you just go on, we're dropping some new hoodies next week, so make sure you jump on that. We also got a logo tee restock coming up, so don't miss those, people who missed out last time. I jumped on your page on your Insta, and I saw, when you sent me the email, and it was hello at Niall Williams, and I was like, shit, I'll have a look. And you've got that little website set up. That's fucking smart, man, for like personal brand and that. Where did you get that from?
Oh, so one of my good mates, her name's Amy Courtney, and you might have seen her kind of, she's always kind of, she's the blonde white girl. I don't know how else to explain it, but she's such a cool chick, and I actually met her through, she used to work for Adidas, and she used to come in and do all our outfitting and that. She's just such an onto a chick, and she understands the brand aspect of being an athlete. Like she's pretty much got all us rugby girls, so every rugby girl you see who's got a sponsorship with Adidas or who has had one has been through AC. Like, she just pushed for the women's side to get those deals and to make our brand bigger. And she's just a smart chick, because obviously she had been through and she'd seen all the men's and the All Blacks, and she was just like, you girls do just as much as them, and what you're putting out on your social media platforms is just as important and really resonates with a lot of people. Like she was telling Adidas, we need to jump on these girls, like they're big. And she got us all signed up, like me, Gossie, Sarah Hiddeny, Kelly, Tyler, Portia, you know what I mean? Like Minnie. And she got all the girls signed up, and I've just become really close with her. So she's since left Adidas, and now she's working with the Blues. And she just sat me down one day and was just like, what do you see for yourself as an athlete? Like, you know, where do you want to go with it? And I said, oh yeah, I really want to kind of push my brand and see what else I can get from my playing career. Like, instead of, because a lot of us are guilty of just going through the motions being a player, and you never really sit, because I don't know if it's because we're a humble nation, I think it is, that we kind of think, oh, we can't get that, or we don't deserve that. We'll just be grateful for being a player in this team. But when you think about it, like, I mean, so these All Blacks, they're getting what, $160,000 Adidas bonus just for winning a World Cup. I mean, not just for winning a World Cup, but you know what I mean? That's like double all our salaries for one tournament. So, and that's because, you know, they've pushed their brand's massive, and they're worth that. So for us, it was trying to get the best of what we can for our brand. And she just told me, like, I think a website would be great for you to expose your brand and have that link sitting there in your bio and on Instagram, and people kind of can just read about you, and businesses can go on there and just see what you're about. And it's almost like doing a meet and greet without having to, you know. So and if they're interested, they'll come calling, because there's, you know, obviously your links to your emails and everything like that. So
have you found it helped you?
Yeah, I have. So since I put it up, like a few people like yourself, when I do meet with them or whatnot, they go, oh, I actually clicked on your website and I got to read your story about you, which was really cool. I felt like I knew you more on a personal level. And then I met you. So yeah, definitely it has helped. And I just think, like, it makes you feel more professional, you know, starting to do things like that, rather than just having, I don't know, like your socials and that. Like, if you take it that next step, businesses see that and they appreciate that work. And but to be fair, I wrote out the whole spiel about myself, and then she done the whole website. So I gotta give AC credit. Shout out to you, AC.
That's me.
All right, yeah.
I completely agree with you on what you said. Like, we're sort of a grateful kind of culture, country. We kind of like, and I guess it's also taught. Like, I think of teams that I've been a part of, and you're in there, and it's like, it's a privilege to be here, you know. And it's like, yeah, it's a privilege to be able to wear that jersey, because it means there's so much pride in this country for especially those certain sports. But you fucking earned it, man. Like, and you definitely, you know, there's credit where credit's due, you know, like just like you said. And I'm so stoked now, and that's what I was going to ask you about. How there's a real rugby pathway now for our wahine in New Zealand. Like, I'd say 10, 15 years ago didn't really exist. Like, you know, not to a full professional level. How's that sort of, like, what's that meant to you now that you can do that?
Yeah, you know, growing up, obviously, with my older brother being Sunnyball, in our family being quite involved in sports from such a young age, it was like our joy. So we played sports because we loved it and we were passionate about it. And then obviously we were competitive. So when you become competitive and you start thinking about wanting to be the best and all that comes with that, that's when you start thinking about being a professional athlete. But obviously when I was growing up, there was no woman professional athlete in any kind of team sports. So it was always kind of semi-professional. And I got to, I remember the day that my brother left to go to the Bulldogs. He was about 15 or 16. We all went to the airport. And I remember it because I was thinking, wow, he's like going to go and be just like, in simple terms, play sports and get paid for it. And I was just like, what a life. Like, that's so cool. And I never thought that it would be possible for myself. And almost didn't live my dream through him, but every time I saw him succeed or whatever he was doing with his life in sports, it made me feel good. And you know, like you think to yourself, just imagine it was you rather than him, like how much even better you would feel. But I seen him, all the work he put into, and how hard it is to live that life. And just when I finally, so I always played touch, but with the touch blokes, like that's definitely like you play touch for New Zealand because you love it. And
it's not cheap, eh?
No, it's not. Like I remember playing one year in I think it was a Super Trans Tasman up in Auckland. And no shit, we had to pay, I think it was $3.5 grand. And so I lived in Avondale. We were living in Avondale at the time. And the competition was out West Auckland, which out by Trust Stadium. You know Trust Stadium?
Yep.
And that's literally 10 minutes up the road from my house. But we had to pay $3.5 grand to play there. And we got into our little motel that was just up the road from it. And we got like, I think it was 1 shorts, 1 singlet, a warm-up t-shirt, a bag, socks. And but that year it was like we thought we were the shit because we actually got a pair of boots too. So we got sponsored. X-Blades jumped on board and they gave us all a pair of X-Blades boots, and we were like, you know, walking in, and because that, like, obviously, like, none of us professional athletes, so walking in and there's a whole room full of boots and you get to choose a pair, like they're like, you can choose one of these are your 3 options. And I'm just like, wow, this is so cool. And so at that time you're really grateful, but when I look back at it now and I compare it to what I have now or what we get through rugby, it's just like, wow, I must have really loved it because I put thousands and thousands, and the whole touch community does it. You put thousands and thousands of dollars. You always see fundraisers, bonus tickets, you know, like the whole jazz, meat packs, anything just to be able to play for the firm. So in saying that, I think that helped me be way more grateful when I did come into this environment and understand exactly what I had in front of me, rather than thinking that was normal.
Yeah.
I know a lot of young girls who come into our team, and it's no fault of theirs by any means, that they think that that's normal. You know, they come from school and they're like, yeah, this is great. You know, we get this whole bag of gear, you get all these boots, all these shoes, flying business class and all that. But it's like, that's not reality. That's not the real world, bro. That's like, and you can get almost sucked in to start taking it for granted because you expect it every year because that's what you get.
Yeah.
So when we became professional, I absolutely was just grateful for all the past players who really went to work and put in motion trying to make our sport professional, because there was a lot of past players who way before my time, who, you know, went and did that grind, who went to meetings and said why we should be professional, why we should be getting paid the same as the men, and all that jazz. And I think I heard one of the girls in one of their conversations that they had, and they were saying it wasn't when they first came into the team for that Go for Gold in 2012. It was still semi-professional then, so they a few of them had actually moved to the Mount on their own accord, you know, their own costs. Whereas when I moved down here, I got reimbursed all my moving costs because like that time, because we were a professional team by the time I joined. So there's all these little things that people don't know what the team went through, and unless you're probably being a semi-professional athlete where you've had to pay big amounts of money to represent New Zealand, you don't kind of understand what women's rugby was before this. And to be real clear, it's not always been business class, bags full of Adidas gear, you know, living this dream. It's been hard work, and the girls have really, you know, the women in the team now, everyone who's been a part of the journey has earned what we have now.
100%. And we'll dive into all of that. Right now, I'm going to take it right back. Let's go from the start. Every good story has a beginning, and I want to listen to your beginning. So let's go back to your upbringing. Obviously, you've got a brother who's not too shabby with the footy ball. You've got a twin sister. I think you've also got another brother. What was that like growing up? Where you came from, and what the childhood was like?
Yeah, so we grew up in Mount Albert in our like kind of primary leading into intermediate days. We were definitely like the working class family. My dad was a painter, he's Samoan, and my mum was a caregiver at a place called for the elderly, Selwyn Village in Point Chevalier. So a lot of people, if you're from around there, you'll know that building, just down by Walker Park. And my mum worked there, I think, for like 15, 20 years, just looking after the elderly. And yeah, so growing up, I just remember, honestly, it was so different to what I see today. It was like the complete opposite. I remember we had to, when we would go to school, we went home, you weren't allowed back in, you had to go outside and play. You weren't allowed back in until it was dinner time. And even then, you know, like your parents were yelling out, like they'd walk to the top or out the window yelling out your name, Niall, get home, and you'd be playing on the street, and it was safe. It was safe to go into anyone's house because all our friends just lived on Mount Royal Ave. Like it was like every second house, and even a couple of teachers from our school all lived on Mount Royal Ave. And you would, whatever day you're on, you'd just go to their house, and then you pick up your friend and you'd walk to another house. And I just loved it. And yeah, we were definitely working class. Like we lived in a big state house. We actually lived in this, it was quite funny. So we lived on Mount Royal Ave, and we lived on this side of the street, which backed onto the mountain. And it was a 2-bedroom house. Like when I think about it now, it was like rugged as, but we didn't understand that when we were kids. And it was a 2-bedroom house. So me and my twin sister shared a room, John and Sonny Bulls shared a room, and then my mum and dad actually slept in the lounge room. So their bed was in the lounge room. And so we grew up there. It was this real small house, but it was the pink house, so it was painted pink, and everyone knew like the pink house, like they knew that was our house. And I don't know what happened, whether mum and dad got more money or it was just luck of the draw, but the house right across the road from us became vacant, and we ended up moving over there because it was a 3-bedroom house, and it had an upstairs, downstairs. And I remember, so we're taking all our stuff, walking it across the road down into the house. And I remember walking to the house, and because it was 2-story, so there was stairs, I was like, whoa, we live in a mansion, like we're so rich. Thinking like we were the shit. Like I was just like, we're like the richest in our whole group of friends, you know, because we were upstairs, downstairs. And yeah, so we moved into that place, and that's kind of where we lived. So the first one was 45, and then we moved to 38 Mount Royal Ave. And yeah, I just loved our upbringing. We had a trampoline out the front. Everyone used to come play, go home, stay home. We used to play cricket down the driveway. We used to play, like crack the egg, you know, all those on the tram. I remember my brothers used to always double bounce us, but we didn't have obviously the rugged, like all the paddings were gone, some of the springs were missing, and how many times we landed on that, and you'd go crying inside, and my mum would be like, oh wow, told you not to play with your brothers, you know they're rough, and you're like like, you know, full crying. And it's like, oh, but I absolutely loved my childhood, and I'm grateful that I grew up in a time where you could actually do that, because now I would never, like, I let my kids' friends come play in our front yard and all that, but I would never let my kids even go around the corner into the park. I'm just too scared. And it's shit that it's that way, because I want them to go, I want to be like, yeah, just go play with your friend's house, but I can't, you know. It's just there's this that little bit of day, and you got to be a bit more safe these days. But so moving on from that, like, so we grew up with my dad. He coached Maris Rugby League, so he coached my brother's teams down at the park, and a lot of our time too was spent on a Saturday. Pardon?
Is it Maris Richmond? Is that what it is?
No, just Marist.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I don't know. Maybe they've changed and joined up with.
At some point, my mum's brother, Jerome, Ropati, he played with Sonny. I can't remember what team it was, but I think it was Maris Richmond. But anyway, carry on. It might be.
I think it was Maris.
Yeah, I just remember seeing some photos still at my nana's house, and I was looking through them, and I saw them, and I'm like, holy shit.
So we spent a lot of Saturdays at Maris Rugby League club rooms. Like, so in the morning, my mum would take us to netball at the Avondale courts, and then we would go meet up afterwards and watch the boys' games, and we'd go back to obviously Maris club rooms, and dad and mum would be upstairs having a beer on the leaners, and that was another like great time of my life. Like I absolutely love those days. So we would be, me and my sister, we would be those little shits, you know, like the little kids that are running in and out of the changing room saying hi, like just being annoying as probably to all the boys that Johnny and Sonny played with, and my dad coaching, but we were just there. And I remember, I think it was Ross and Anne Lipscomb who used to own the club rooms and run it at that time, and we had so many friends, and you just play outside on the park, on the fields. Like I loved it. I just absolutely loved it. And then when you'd get tired, you'd go inside and you'd sleep at the bottom of the bar leaner sometimes, or you'd go down by the pool table end, and all the parents' kids who were still there would hang out and just chill out. And I never ever, like, you know, some probably today were a bit precious where they'd be like, oh, you know, your kids bloody sleep in it. But I loved my childhood, and I thought that was the best times because I just got to hang out with my friends all the time. And so yeah,
it's just got a lot, like quite PC now, eh? Like it's just everything we seem to have an issue with everything that goes on now. Like you do anything and it's like, oh, there's something wrong with it, you should be doing this. And like there was no harm was done. Like the kids had fun, everyone has fun at that point in time, eh?
Well, it's just I 100% agree, because I, like, you know, people, if you didn't know that background about Sonny, that was his lifestyle growing up, and then what he made of his life, people wouldn't say shit about it.
Yeah.
But if he grew up and become something bad or terrible, they'll be like, oh, it's just definitely that upbringing, you know what I mean? So people have an opinion when it suits them, and I mean, I'm all for people's opinions, definitely express it, but like I agree with you that there's always going to be people who are going to disagree or find the worst in anything that they can. They've just got that negative mindset.
Sure.
But,
sure. Have you got any stories of Sonny back in the day? Throw him under the bus. Any crack up stories?
He'll probably try to deny it, but I always remember when we were young, me and my sister, you know, so Barbie dolls were hard out in, and we used to just, me and my sister be in our room. We used to dress our Barbie dolls and all that stuff, and have our friends over. And Sonny was like, he loved like the limelight. Like he just was, you know, look at me. And he used to always come into our room, no shit, and he would like dance in front of us, like just random, like knock. Have you seen those like memes, the funny things, and it's like your annoying brother who comes in and just does the fingers and then walks out?
Yeah, I've seen that. Yeah,
he's like that, but he would come in and like do dances and shit, and we're like, bro, are you all good? Like get lost. And he'd be like doing the hula or something. Like it's just, or Michael Jackson. Oh my god, Michael Jackson. So he was in love with Michael Jackson. Like he loved Michael Jackson so much, and he used to always be in our hallway because it was wood, with his socks on and practicing the moonwalk, like always. Like that was his one thing he used to always do, and his go-to dance move was like the moonwalk into the ow.
The show-off ones.
Yeah, pretty much. And then Johnny would look at him like, bro, I'm gonna drop you soon. My oldest brother.
So you moved into your mansion, and then what happened from there?
From there, so we had, like, I enjoyed my upbringing. We had, you know, my dad was tough, but probably more so on my oldest brother. He probably got the brunt of when my dad would come home and he'd be tired or angry from work. So I think my brother took quite a few ones for the team, but from there, yeah, so my mum and dad ended up splitting up just as we were about to leave to go to intermediate. And my mum moved to Avondale on Victor Street, right next, like 2 houses down from Avondale College. Right. And my dad stayed in Mount Albert. So me and my sister moved with my mum, and the 2 boys moved with my dad. But Johnny, because they both were at Wesley at the time, and we were still in primary, and then they went on to go to Mags. and my sister and I were just about, we literally had all our gear to go to Wesley Intermediate. Like we had all went into the uniform shop and brought it all, and then my parents split. We were living in we had moved to Waterview first, that's right. Gosh, I forgot that house. And then that's when they split and went, and so we had all our gear for Wesley Intermediate, and we went with my mum. And it was crazy because they actually sat us down at the table, and they said, "Oh, come on, kids." And I remember it like it was yesterday. We all sat around the table and they said, "Oh, your father and I are going to split. And you have to not choose, but where do you want to stay? Because it's going to obviously be two separate houses." And I remember no one wanted to say anything because we didn't want to choose one.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? And I can't remember, like I remember that part, but I can't remember how it came out, like who went first to pick someone or whatever, but it ended up the way it ended up. And yeah, we moved to Victor Street, and obviously moving to Avondale, my mum, the intermediate's right next to the college. And so my mum said, "Well, it's no point in you going all the way to Mount Roskill to Wesley. You might as well just go to Avondale. You can walk there. It's like 2 minutes." And we were like, "No," because we didn't have any friends, and we had already got all our gear. This was literally like the week of starting intermediate.
Oh,
and I was like, "Fuck." And then anyway, so we went in, and my mum couldn't afford brand new uniforms, so we had to get secondhand ones. And I was like, "Yeah, all good, whatever." Got secondhand ones, and it was like those tunic style dresses, and you wear the polo underneath it. And yeah, they were mean as. And I remember no shit, rocking up to the first day of school, and everyone goes into the hall, and then they call out your name. They call out your names in classes, so like room and then they call out a list of names. And I was sitting there next to my sister, and we walked in, and every girl's tunic was just above their knee, and ours was down by our ankles because we didn't know, like, ours was secondhand, and like everyone was looking at us like we were weird. And I was like, "Kill me now, I just want to go home. Can I wag the first day of school?" And
ones,
yeah, pardon?
did you try to do the tuck-in ones, or?
No, we had to, like, it was literally like way too, like it was like this much long, like, oh my God, it was down to our ankles, and everyone was above their knees. I was like, fuck. And the best thing though about having a twin sister is you've always got a friend. So we just sat together, and then our first class though, we weren't in the same class, we got split up. So I was like, no. And then I realized one of my actual other good mates, I didn't know, but she was going to Avondale, Grace Rasmussen. And so we went to kindergarten, primary, and then I didn't realize she was going to Avondale because she lived in Mount Albert. So that was cool. And I think it was because her older sister and that was already at Avondale College, so she was kind of following them. But so I made another friend, and we were in the same class, which was cool. But I remember going home that day, and I was like, "Mom, you have to cut our uniform. Everyone's is above their knee," and we're like crying, like, "This is so embarrassing." So my mom did the old cut it, you cut across and then hem up a little bit and just sewed it like hand, because we didn't have a sewing machine, just hand sewed all, so you could see all the stitching going in. But I was like, there's no way in hell I'm going back to school with it down by my ankles again. Oh man, yeah. And then so that was intermediate, and I enjoyed my intermediate years. Like it was cool, it was fun, and that's when probably I started to get like really serious in sports. I started to be real competitive, joined all the teams. Like I even did, I think, swimming, and like I hate swimming, and I used to win some of my races, but I was the only one who couldn't dive. And so everyone's like, huh?
You were that island kid that doesn't know how to dive.
Yeah. Everyone's standing up on the edge, on those little friggin' the side of it, and I was in the pool, like to kick off the wall. Fuck. But I used to still win some races, so I was like, why do I need to dive? I can still win, those kind of attitude ones. And then it started getting to like morning training. I was like, nah, because then I found touch. And then that's when I started my touch career, and I kind of gave away other sports, and I would only do stuff at school, kind of like cross country and that. More so because like I was competitive, and I'm a person who, if a cross country is going on and I can't just sit there if I know that I've got a chance of beating the person who might win it, or I'm just too competitive just to sit there and be like, nah, that all good. I'll just chill with my friends, you guys. Even though I don't really care about cross country, but I'm like, but I can still beat them, so I need to go and race.
Yeah.
So I literally would do like cross country and basketball and swimming and all those sports by default because I was too stubborn to just let other people play if I thought I could be better than them.
That's obviously like continued on to now. Like I look at all the top athletes, and I think of like first one that comes to my mind straight away is TJ Perenara. Like how competitive everyone at that top level is just like it's pretty much what gets you there. I think is like your ability to compete with people, the I can't lose factor, you know.
Yeah, I agree because like if you don't have that desire and drive, like I always say, first and foremost, like you got to have the passion for the sport, like you got to love it. Because if you don't love it, you're not going to push yourself to those dark places. There's just no way in how you're going to be like, I want to nearly die to beat you to be in this position and to get that spot in the team. And I think that's what sets people apart. And I found it quite a bit like in our team, you'll see some players come in. Like I'm probably blessed that I had lived a lot more years than a lot of these youngers before coming into a professional environment. Like I've been in semi-professional, I've done all that competing all my life, and I understand what I have. And so for me, I felt like when I needed to get that spot, it was because of so much more than just getting that spot to play. There was so much other things that was riding on that, and and my standards and all that. Whereas I feel like a fresh-faced 18-year-old coming to our team is like, oh, that'd be nice if I can make the team because I'm just happy to be here. Yeah. And then also they start to make friends and they're like, oh, I'm just happy. I'm happy because you're my friend, even though you got my spot. Whereas me, I'm best mates with like Cowles, Goss, and all of them, but I'm competing for a spot. Like I want that spot. I want to start. I want the most minutes. So there's that different kind of mentality, and it's learning that you can still be best of friends and that, but also the biggest competitors with each other as well.
100%. I think of like a few things down in Wellington when I was there. And I've said it to a couple of people and they're all like, oh no, there's no way that happens and shit. Like boys would like, you know, the big trainers, like people were fighting, people were like punching, like guys were having punch ups. I remember like Duplessis and Ngani Laumape like squaring up like they were going to have a proper scrap, and Ben May punching Ricky Riccatelli, like they were actually having full on scraps, and people were like, no way, like they're teammates. And it's like people are so competitive at that level that like you just don't even realize. And like at the end, they have this thing where you come in at the end of the training and everyone huddles up, and the people, whoever had a fight in that training, comes in the middle and does a hongi, and it's like, leave it on the field. And then you go in the changing rooms and it's back to normal, you know? It's like nothing personal. It's just that competitive edge, I guess.
Yeah, I love that. And that's being professional too, bro. Like you understand that anything, like the heat of the moment, but it's all for the game. It's coming from a place of love, like just a place of you wanting to be better and the team to be better. Like, you know, on the field, I had to you have to understand there's lots of different personalities in a team, and some people can handle being yelled at, and some people will just fucking fall to pieces and go in their shower and don't pass me the ball because I dropped that one and you yelled at me. And we have all those different personalities in our team, and going that next level of being professional is there's two parts to it. Like you've got to be able to understand that when someone yells at you or something happens in the game, it's just from a place of love, of wanting you to be better, us to be better as a team, as a collective. And then the second part is also learning those personality traits too. So on the field now, there's certain players that I won't yell at. I know a different way to probably get more out of them when they make a mistake, or if they're doing well, or what is best suited to them. Whereas there's other players who I can be like, nah, you know, fuck up to, like, that's not good enough, you needed to be here. And they're like, yeah, sweet. And I had to learn that because I'm definitely a player. Like our coach comes on, Corey, when he's running the waters, and we've just had a try scored and it was around me, and I'm like, fuck, was that my fault? What happened? Tell me, like, what was going on? And then he'll be like, oh, it's, and I go, no, what was it? And then he's like, oh, you just pushed too far wide and you got beat. And then I was like, okay, sweet. So stay more square. And he's like, yeah. And then I'm like, okay, cool. Whereas like, you know, imagine like someone who's just probably maybe their first game and is a bit shy, and you come on, you're like, fuck, you need to stay more square. Well, what are you up to? You're pushing too wide. Like that's like whole, you know, it's just, and that's learning. Like that's not, I didn't come into this team straight away and think like that. I came in and was like, everyone needs to be like me. Why can't I just yell at them and they be like sweet with that? Like, yeah. So I've had to learn that, and you get way more out of it from players when you actually kind of make the effort to understand their personality too. Because at the end of the day, bro, we're all trying to be the best players we can be on the field. Everyone's giving their 100%. And if they're not, that's the one time I feel like everyone will get the same treatment. If you're not giving 100%, that's when you can be like, the fuck, bro, what are you up to? You know, it's that effort rather than someone making a mistake on the field or missing a call or whatever. That's different.
Yeah, and that's leadership, and that's the best. Like you think of your best leaders in your teams, they all have those traits where you know how to, and coaches especially is a massive, like, understanding your players, understanding how they work. Do you guys learn that sort of stuff within your within the sevens realm now? Like, do you have people who come in and teach that sort of mental side of things?
Yeah, so we've done over the years, we've done a few pieces on that, and usually at the start of the year, I don't think we did it this season, but on the last few years, we've done those personality tests, and it's quite funny. All our team are all like feelers, emotional, and so for us, that's why Bunce was such a massive part of our team, because he's definitely the heart, had been the heart, and so all of our girls. From those personality tests, it was obvious that we work better through an emotional connection.
Right. Yep.
And which is real, like out of it, because you know when you meet each and every one of us, we're all so different, but to have that kind of as everyone's personality trait where we all thrive on connection kind of makes sense though when you see our team, because we're such a tight unit, and it's more so probably not just doing serious stuff on connection and that, but more so like heart to heart, sitting down with each other, we have lots of sister chats, and you're allowed to kind of speak on whatever you want to, what's on your mind, or if something's weighing you down, and it doesn't have to be in front of the whole team. Sometimes, like us as leaders, we say, oh, you can come, because we're all so different. Some might connect with that player, one might connect with that player, and you hope that you build that relationship with a few players where that they feel like they can come and talk to you about anything on a deeper level. So I feel like when you have those connections, that's when you want to play for each other. Yeah. And it's also the other side of it, bro. Like if I don't have that connection from you, that trust, you know, like I might over chase on a thing because I don't trust you to do your job, and then that's when we all start falling to bits. So you have to have the nice conversations where, fuck, I love you, like I'll do anything for you on the field, I got your back. And then you also have those conversations where it's like, well, I don't know I don't know if I can trust you on the field. I just feel like you're not giving it your all. Like, and you can be honest too. Like I've had those conversations. Like I feel like, oh, you're just doing this or that, and well, how do you feel about me? Do you feel like that's right on what I'm saying, or do you think I'm over exaggerating, or do you think like a bit of you's kind of like, oh yeah, sometimes I do just stay down in a tackle and pretend I'm injured, or like it's, you know, we have serious conversations like that, and and it's hard to hear sometimes. Like I've had conversations said to me about things that I've done and that, and it's hard because it's your peers, it's your friends, but you acknowledge it and you know that it's come from a good place. So then you acknowledge it, you apologize, or you do whatever you need to do to make it right, whether it's right then and there just within that leadership group, or it's you've got to go to the coaches, or you stand up in front of the whole team and you say something, but you address it, and that's the only way to move on. What I've learned from a women's team is the best thing to do is to address it straight away and acknowledge it, because girls can be feisty and girls know how to hold a grudge, and that shit grows, man. And you can see it. Like I'm a person, if I'm unhappy, you'll fucking know about it. Like I definitely know, and I've learned more about myself. I can walk into a room and change the mood because of how I am, what I'm feeling, and that's not good if it's a negative energy, I don't want to be coming into a room and because I'm having a shit day now, fucking everyone's too scared to talk to me, or everyone starts to be quiet, like, you know. So we we all acknowledge our own personality traits, and then it's like having your mates to be able to come over and go, Naz, you're all good, bro. Like, I can tell that something's fucking going on because you're not yourself, and we can go and have those conversations with each other as well to get things right. Yeah.
Back to that professionalism as well, though. Like, but that's cool that you understand that. I guess and it's not actually just like women as opposed to men. Like, yeah, women do have that sort of trait, but you know, men do that as well. A lot of men do that, and it's that trying to find that professionalism of, like we said before, it's not personal way. It's to get each other better, and that thing you just talked about before, like having tough conversations, or like the sister chats. I fucking love that because, like, I didn't know this until a couple of weeks ago. I was listening to a podcast. I knew something about it, but I didn't realize that we had like the highest suicide rate per capita and the teen suicide rate in the world, as New Zealand, this little country, and disgusted me. Like, it made me feel sick, and it's like, and I think a lot of it's to do with that we don't have enough of those conversations, and I think people in like your sort of position, in a role model, I guess, position, and in even like in a very tough sport, you know, like rugby's a tough sport. Being able to have those conversations and showing our younger generations that it is okay to have those conversations. It's not weak to sit there and have a chat about why you're feeling bad and stuff. I think it's so important, and I think a lot of our top athletes are really sort of taking that on themselves now.
Yeah, I especially with New Zealand being such a sports dominated country, like I feel like we put our sports people on pedestals and we think that they're superhumans, and with that comes a lot of responsibility. And you see, like, as soon as you're a professional in anything you do in life, there comes responsibilities. But we tend to forget sometimes too that people are human beings, and you can't sit there and judge someone on something and act like you've never made a mistake in your whole entire life, especially when with sports people's age bracket. It's usually, you know, like you get that 18 to 30 kind of age bracket where most people who aren't professional, what are you doing in those years? You know, you're having the best time of your life. Like you're going out, you're partying, you're doing whatever you want to do, just living life, you know. And they got to remember that these are young adults who have taken on this whole new responsibility without even knowing it sometimes, you know. They're just trying to make it big in their chosen field, and then they do, and then it's like, okay, you're a Black Fern Sevens player, now you've got to respect everything that comes with the black jersey, our whole brand, all of this, all these rules around social media, all this. Like, in the last year they were just at school, yeah, you know, having drinks in a garage with their friend, yeah, on Snapchat or whatever. Like, it's such a drastic change, and we obviously have programs and people in place to help you kind of guide them into that. And I'd love to go into that role of being that mentorship, kind of lead the transition. But yeah, like you said, there's so many people who are just I judge these young athletes on every mistake that they make. And whereas I feel like we need to be a little bit more empathetic, like, and let people who are more close to them or in those roles that are needed to actually have those tough conversations. So when I'm going out, like, I don't need Tom, Dick, and Harry to say da 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 in the comment section. What I need is my teammate to come, or my coach, or my partner, or my family member to say, hey, you're drinking too much, man, you know, and the shit you're putting up on social media, that's not good. Like, I don't need all these other people saying, you effing idiot, you're a disgrace to the black jersey. That doesn't help. People, like, yeah, you have your opinion, but you don't need to comment that. Like, yeah, do you know what I mean? And so yeah, 100% I agree. Like, the tough conversations and holding the standards, but it needs to come, I think that those conversations need to be had from people who you trust and who you respect, because if some random person comes up to me and is like, you need to do better in this area, and I'm like, well, what have you done? Who are you? Like, do you know what I mean? I don't mind people having their opinions on stuff, but it's just when people they take it too far, and we have people in place who can have those conversations, you know, that need to be have on that tough, courageous side, and as long as you have that connection where you know you trust the person, and that you, like I always say, you know, it's coming from a place of love, so you'll appreciate it.
Yeah. I was talking to Jordan Ricky in a podcast, like I think it was last week, about haters and how he deals with it. And I just find it shit that, like, you know, we do teach our athletes to block out white noise. You know, that's outside noise. Don't worry about it. People will comment. People will do all this shit. Don't worry about it. But where are our people teaching these guys to not do it in the fucking first place? Because what gives, you know, like if my mum ever saw my messages of me saying that to someone, like I'd get the slap across the face. Like that is just like, that's just respect. Like out of respect, why are we not teaching people that that's not okay to do that? And like I think of him, I'm like, he gets like, you know, some like not death threats, but like people like go, you shouldn't have been born. Like your mum is a like disgrace. And this is a 21-year-old boy. Like he's 21. Like he's fresh out of school, and you got these like mid-30s, 40s men saying this sort of shit to them. And it's just, I guess that's what social media has opened up, the ability to do that. And I don't know, it's got a whole lot of upsides to it, but it also has those negative sides. And I just sort of think, and I listen to guys like Isaac John and that talk about, and Gary Vee actually is a massive one on it, that these guys just must be in like a really bad space in their own life to be able to have the sort of thought to think, oh, I'm going to go onto my newsfeed and comment hate on random people's posts.
Yeah, oh man, I'm, you know, for a long time before, obviously, I made a name for myself, and I wouldn't even say like it's a massive name, but obviously I'm out there. But when my brother was going through a lot of stuff, and he obviously had very public some downfalls, and like everyone was writing him the waves when he won the grand finals and Super Rugbies and World Cups, and then when he made mistakes, you know, they were sure to jump on that too. And I spent lots of time of my life trying to comment back to all of them, because it would be the same thing, like not anything to do with rugby. It was like direct dig at his personality and who he was as a person. And I think the one that I just couldn't stand, and it always was like clickbait for me, like I always had to reply, was when they would say, call him Money Bill Williams. And I hated that so much, because if you know my brother, he is got the biggest heart and the most kindest soul ever, and he would give like literally his shoes, like a kid would be in park, like, can I have your shoes? And he'd be like, yeah, and it'd be like, you know, $300 shoe. He is the most least materialistic person you could ever meet in your life. He doesn't care, like if you know, like even now over in Aussie, they've got a BMW, right? But his wife drives that. He doesn't, because she's got the kids. So he drives around in this little, I can't remember what he picked me up in the airport. It was like like almost like a Honda Civic or something like that. You know what I mean? Like he doesn't care about that stuff. And the money he earned from his contracts and that was to set him up for life and his family. Yeah. That's what he gets money for. And so when people would say he's just doing it for the money, I was like, the amount of times people, a prime example would be, you know, when he was living down in Christchurch, right? And the earthquakes, I think it was the earthquakes happened, and he gave 50 grand towards the earthquakes. And but when he left the Crusaders to go overseas, that's all they cared about. They all like, oh, you traitor, or, you know, and they all jumped on him like blah 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 about leaving the Crusaders, and he's done nothing good. And I'm like, hang on, 2 weeks ago he just like, but he never put it out there or anything, he just donated it. Yeah. But people don't, you know, it's like they want to see the negative in people, and it just, and it like, it actually fucks me off. And when people try and have personal digs at someone that they fucking have no absolute idea about them, you don't know them as a person, all you know is their performance on the field, and that's all you have the right to comment on to a degree. Yeah. So I mean, like, yeah, the shit defensive game, but he can play better, like kind of stuff like that. Like I could take that. I don't know if I'm not speaking on behalf of all players because I don't know, but I could take that if I knew I played a shit defensive game, all good. But when you say to me, oh, you're a shit mum because I had a bad rugby game, that's when it's like too far. And I continuously see comments like that against all these, like you said, young adults who are still trying to find their way in life with the pressures of being a high performance athlete. It's just not fair. And I would love to come and sit at your job and just write comments to you about how you're doing your job every day and see if you like it. But not about your job, actually. I'll just talk about you as a person, even though I don't know you. Like, come on, bro.
It's something that I guess like guys like I'm trying to change it with platforms like this where we can go player straight to fan, like players get to chat and talk about themselves too without going through a media outlet that will do an interview. And now, by the way, good fucking job, media outlets, that the way you've done things, no one wants to talk anymore. And now when they do talk, they just do the same old thing, like, oh, no, it's just a real tough game, like credit to the boys and all this sort of shit. Like, you don't get the real player anymore because everyone's too scared of fucking up. And when you do fuck up, you see it on the front headline because that's what they targeted around. And what I always like try and do is after I finish a podcast with my guests, and I'll do the exact same with you, is right at the end, like I just tell you, if there's anything that you want to cut it out. Like we'll cut it out at the end just to make sure that you always feel like you're in a safe place to talk. And I guess, it's not just me. There's so many people trying to do it now. And I think like with people like you and a lot of players are doing it, TJ and stuff, and Artie just stepping up and actually talking about it's probably gonna make a big difference like moving forward. But let's keep talking about you because we're went off on massive tangents there. And when was your first like professional sevens gig?
So first couple of years when just after having my second daughter, that's when I got kind of like my first training. I was on training contracts for the first couple of years. So the first year was $7,500, and then the second year I got moved to a $15,500. And at that time, the team wasn't centralized. So down here in the Mount, everyone was still in their provinces, right. And you'd just join up for camps during the year. And then obviously, like after a certain camp, a tournament would be coming up, and they'd select the team to go to that. And so I would get invited I wasn't full time. Obviously, I was just on training. So for me, it was like they said, oh, you can just train whenever this is a training program, you get it done in your own time. And then if we want you for camps, so like if they needed numbers, because people might be injured, would invite you. And then, so I did that. And the second year when I went on to that $15,000 contract, because obviously I wasn't working because I just had Ray, I just made because like I told you before, I'm quite an all-in person, and I don't like, so when I don't like people, almost like if I see there's an opportunity sitting there and I'm not taking full advantage of that, and other people are and they're getting better than me, and I could be better to be where they are, then I'm like, why wouldn't you do that? Yeah. It doesn't make sense in my head. Don't think you're going to be where they are by doing this. So when there's that, especially when there's an opportunity sitting there to do it, like that's like a slap in the face. So I on that 15K would go do full-time training out at Mish with the girls, and obviously they're all on whatever contracts they were on at that time. I don't think they were massive for a full-time kind of gig, but because it was still semi then, so they were all on kind of semi, and I think some of them were doing work as well. But I would go out and train the whole day with them. So I'd do a field session with them or a conditioning session, and then we'd have a weight session usually, or a skills block. And it didn't, like, to me, people say, why would you do what full-time people are doing for 15K? But that was my opportunity, and that's what I call like the grind to get to the good times. So and I enjoyed it. Like I was getting back into shape, after having a baby, and I was seeing opportunities start to come. Like I was getting invited to more camps, and I was starting to actually like learn a little bit more about sevens, like what it was, the game was about, and I got really fit. And then it just so happened that one camp there was quite a few injuries. I think Kayla, Hori, and a couple of others were kind of injured, and they just said to me, oh look, you come to this camp. And after the camp, the trip was to Dubai. It was the Dubai Sevens, and they said, "Oh, you've made the team to come to the Dubai Sevens," and I was like, "What the fuck?" Like, it was buzzing out, hard out, and I was just, and I'd only played in 2 sevens tournaments before there, I think it was, or 3 sevens tournaments, and they were like, one was for Auckland over in Japan, which was my very, very first ever sevens tournament, and that's when Ray was literally 6 months.
Oh my God.
Or 3 months or something like that, because I was expressing milk. Like, I took my thing over to the tournament in Japan, and I was in my room. Funny story, I'll tell you. So my first ever sevens tournament, so I go over there, still don't know all the rules of sevens. Like, my mouth guard's one of those ones from the chemist, like in the hot water. Like, I was gagging the whole time because it was like, I didn't realize you could cut it, and just amateur as and I just went, and it was such a good group of girls, like Tiana Ngawati and Charmaine McManaman, Kitty Demand, like heaps of these names that has kind of been in and out of the scene and have played rugby kind of their whole life, but they just made it such a good trip. And Pete Walters was the coach at the time, and we went over to Hokkaido, and we played in this tournament, and we ended up winning it. But during the week, so I would have to like express in my room because my boobs were still filling out of milk, because obviously I had left and I was still breastfeeding at the time, but we just kind of cold turkeyed Ray. And I did all the expressing when I left it in the freezer. And the girls knock on the room, and there's like, I think a couple of the young girls, it was like Taisha Ignacio and a couple of others, but they were like real young, like literally like 17 or something. And I was like, the thing's on my tit, like it's like and I'm sitting there, and I was like, oh, and I go, I'll come back. And then I was like, you know what? This is a fucking great life lesson right here. And I go, come in. And then they came in, and their faces of absolute horror, like my tit hanging out with a finger, like sucking milk out of it. And their faces were like, and like trying to like look anywhere but at me, and like, oh, we'll just come back, it's all good. Like, and I was like, no, come in, sit down. And like, they were like, no. And I was like, sit down. And then they sat down, and I was like, see this? And then they're like, yeah. And then I go, don't get pregnant, okay? I go, all of you have a long life and a big career ahead of you. Don't get pregnant, or you're going to be sitting here like this. And they're like, okay, yep. and I'm happy to say none of them have got pregnant yet.
Yes, life lesson. It worked. What about you've been to an Olympics, so that's a lot. You have in Rio, that's right.
Yeah, Rio 2016. So I made that debut appearance in end of 2015 in Dubai.
Yeah.
And I did that, and then I ended up making, so since then till now, today, I've only ever missed one tournament. And that was 2015.
Oh.
So in 6 years, I've missed, well, now 2, the second Olympics. But I remember going to about 4 tournaments during that year, 2016. And then they did the selection. We went to a camp in Fiji, and we just got thrashed, like absolutely pumped. And it was kind of almost like the trial for Rio. And we played Fiji a few times. And then we came home, and then they picked the team, and I was lucky enough to get selected and went to the Olympics. And it was the most out of it experience I've ever been to, because obviously it was way different to the Olympics that have just happened because of COVID. And it was just, I was like, wow. And it opened up my eyes to a lot of things. And I think a couple of the cool things that really that stood out to me was from the Olympics was you can have the best team of athletes, you can have the best team full of the best athletes. Sorry, you can have a team full of the best athletes, but if you don't have a team, you're not going to win. And that's what I feel like was what happened to us.
Yeah.
So it's no secret we've had a lot of culture issues in that last kind of block leading into Rio. But I thought even us getting a silver medal was a testament to our training and the athleticism of our players. Like, only a team who's going through a lot of trauma and difficult times can pull off a silver medal at the Olympics that have great athletes. Like, everyone was so fit, so strong, so fast. Like, we would have, one for one, we would be every single player there in those areas. But as a collective, nah, we would have been like fucking plate final. But that was one thing that stood out for me. The second thing that stood out was just how big the Olympics is compared to rugby in general. Olympics is like pinnacle, and it has all the sports in it, and it's just on a whole nother level. Like, as an athlete, like, you would have seen even our girls, if you look at their followings pre-Olympics compared to post-Olympics, they're just like, boom, it's shot through the roof, all of our players. And it's amazing because it puts all our rugby players on that global stage. So now we're like, you know, like, the world is seeing you rather than just the people who play rugby. And then the last thing that stood out to me was it doesn't matter what shape, size, weight, ethnicity, religious background, upbringing, anything that people get judged on today a lot of times by, you can be the best in your field at the Olympics. And that's what amazed me, because I would literally go to the dining hall and I would see everything you can think of, like the biggest person, the tallest person, the shortest person, the skinniest person, you know what I mean, black, white, whatever. But to know that they were all the top of their fields was amazing. And that's something that I really rate sports for, because no matter what, you can always go far. There's always something for you in sports, no matter what you feel like you are or have in your life physically. So that was really cool. And then the last thing from the Olympics was, I'll share a cool story. After we won the silver medal, we were all obviously upset because us being athletes and competitors, we wanted to win the gold and we didn't. And I remember we had left the fields and we were all kind of walking back in our own little groups or whatever. And I was walking by myself, just having a moment, kind of, because from the entry to we were the furthest building from the entry. So it was a long walk. And so I was walking through the village and I was kind of walking with my head down and I had my medal around my neck. And this guy goes, "Excuse me." And I kind of looked up and I think he was like Nigerian or something like that. He said to me, can I please look at your medal? And I said, "Oh, yeah." And I took it off and I gave it to him and I was just standing there and he goes, why do you look so sad? And I said, "Oh, because we won a silver medal and we wanted to win gold." And he said to me, "You know, I've been coming to the Olympics for my fourth Olympics, so 20 years, and I have no medal. What I would give for this medal." And I was just like, "I'm so sorry." And it was like the perspective of doom, eh? And I just felt like the biggest dick, like,
oh man,
but as an athlete, like, you're allowed to have those moments, and a human being, you're allowed to feel sad and you're allowed to have all those emotions because you work so hard for something. But for me, that moment was perspective, like, holy shit, I'm a silver medalist at the Olympics in a sport that I've been playing for maybe just under 2 years, you know what I mean? Like, so, and I was like, said to him, I was like, thank you for walking past me and engaging with me and sharing that with me, because it's made me appreciate it so much more. And then I went back to my room and I was holding my medal and I took a picture and I sent it to my family, and I said, "I'm an Olympic silver medalist," like, with a happy face, you know. And yeah, that was that moment where I was just like, holy shit.
Like, can we talk about the competitive side? I guess that is the other side to it, is like sometimes you miss the moment, so you realize, like, shit, man, you're an Olympic medalist. Like, that is a big thing to say. That's no one can just walk down the road and say, "I've got an Olympic medal." Like, that's crazy. Like any Olympic medal. But yeah, no, it's good. Fuck, that's so cool that he came up to you and said that, because guess it's perspective, it's sometimes you
Yeah.
need reassurance from someone to realize like how cool something actually is. I actually heard a cool like sort of thing about the dining hall, which you talked about slightly just then. Apparently it's just like this out the gate food court that's just like get whatever you want. Is that right?
Yeah, so you walk in and there's literally like, so you walk through the doors and there's just tables everywhere. And then along the back wall is every single country, kind of like Indian, Chinese, Japanese, all food stations, like, and you can just get whatever you want. And then there's fridges. So on your, what do you call it? Lanyard. That has your ID, there's like a thing for the Coca-Cola, so the drink dispenser, so you just tap it and so you get, because Coke sponsored the Olympics, so you get free drinks, anything you want. And so obviously there's all waters, but then there's every other kind of drink that, and Coke makes obviously lots of different drinks. So all of those, you just tap it and you just get whatever drink you want. And then they had all the breakfast stations in the middle, and yeah, no, it was unreal. And it was the main place kind of where you would mix and mingle. So you could see all the other teams and other people there. And the best one that the couple that I got a photo of Novak Djokovic at the dining hall, which was cool. And then I got a photo, and then a few of us girls got a photo of Serena Williams as well. Wow. Which was me. And her ass is massive. Holy shit. It was so big. I remember being like, that's got to be fake. Like, wow. It was so massive. And then who else did we see? Oh, we've seen a couple of basketball players. Is that Tony Parker?
Oh, yeah. Shit.
Yeah. We've seen him, and we got a photo of him too. But it's so funny because one of his teammates took the photo, and when we got the photo back, we were like, why does it look weird? And then we realized the guy's like 7 foot something, and so it's like a down angle. It's like I was taken from a drone or something. It's so funny. And yeah, but those are probably more of the famous people we got to see. I don't know if you saw, but my brother got to go to the room and meet Usain Bolt.
No, I didn't. But what?
I think it was Usain Bolt, yeah. And I was like, oh, I text him, go, oh, true, did you lose my number? Like, bro. But I don't know how that happened. But yeah, he got to go and meet him, and he had a photo of him in that, which was pretty cool.
Sonny was at that same Olympics, was he?
Yeah, so that's the one he did his Achilles,
right,
like the second game or something.
Well, how crazy is that? Even that, like you got to go to an Olympics with your sibling, with your brother.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. It was funny too, because my brother was like, because everyone was like, Sonny's like, oh, I made the Olympics, and everyone's like, oh yay, and then I was like, I made the team too, and it was like, yeah, and he was like, bro, and then I was like, oh, come on, bro, like, let me have my moment here. But no, that was real special, and I'm actually glad that I did go with him to the Olympics, because after he did his Achilles, he was literally just stuck in his room for the rest of the time. He couldn't get around. So I almost became like his little friggin' maid, but I used to go and cycle because they had bikes outside of because that's how big the village is. We had bikes. And I would ride over to the food court, stack up get all this food and stuff, put it in containers, put it in my backpack, and hold it and I'd be riding all the way back and then take it up to my brother in the room and that, because he couldn't get out. He would message me and he'd be like, what are you doing? I was like, oh, we're going to go maybe watch the volleyball or something, because after you compete, you can go watch you just put your name down kind of at the bottom, and tickets get allocated.
Right.
Yeah, and so everyone would go, oh, we'll go do this and go there. And he was like, oh man, I've had no food, and am I washing? And I was like, fuck. So I took on that a bit, but yeah, obviously, like, being my brother, was just cool to be there with him. But I was real, it made me appreciate even more so what we had done in our team, because of how their campaign ended. Was obviously they did it in a medal. So yeah.
Let's fast forward to this Olympics just gone. So obviously it circled around about like a video of you, in the media and stuff, it circled around a bit that, and even in the actual Olympics itself, I think I was watching the final, and it might have been I don't know if it was the final or not, but the commentators actually talked about you and the fact that you weren't able to be there because of injury. How was that, and sort of what happened? How did you deal with it? What were the struggles with it and whatnot?
Yeah, to be honest, I'm still dealing with it. I'm still going through it. There's a lot of things that people don't know that happened around that time, as well as missing out on the Olympics. So when I did go to my surgeon appointment, so what happened was I was at training and I got a head knock, and it was real, like nothing big, and I carried on training and I didn't think anything of it. And I remember sleeping that night, and this was like literally 2 weeks before the team left, and I woke up the next morning, and you know when you have like a bad, like your neck gets stiff in that, and I was like, oh, I must have slept the wrong way because my neck was real stiff. Anyway, I went to training. We did like a hard out session that day, not contact, but just like high speed kind of stuff. But I remember in one of our drills, it's called pursuits, I passed, you're sprinting in your part, and as I passed, I got pins and needles down my arm, and I was like, oh shit, like what the fuck, that doesn't feel right. And I was like, oh, it must have just been how I passed that time. And the whole session, like I had it, and I was like freaking out. And like if you know me, I've got a high pain tolerance. Like I've played through pretty, like if you ask the old physio Nicole, I've played through quite a few injuries and stuff, and I'm a person who will just play like I literally, like you have to drag me off the field. And so for me to be like, fuck, that's not right, I need to go and talk to the doc, I was like gutted, because I automatically straight away thought, fuck it, I think it's something bad. And then my second thought was, fuck, the Olympics are in 2 weeks, like we're leaving to go to Olympics in 2 weeks. And so I was like conflicted, as in I don't want to say anything. I'll just keep, but the pain was so bad that I had no choice but to say something, because I couldn't just be like, oh, I'm not training, like, you know what I mean? And and also deep down inside of me was the other side, like my quality of life. Like I wouldn't be able to forgive myself if I went and played and did something worse, knowing that I should have said something. And so I went to the doc and I just said, oh, look, doc, I'm getting this and that. And then she goes, oh, yeah. And she was actually quite positive. She just said, oh, and we did all these tests, like strength tests and that. And she goes, oh, you're actually like really good in your strength. So I think it's just this, because your strength and everything's so well, like it might just be like kind of a annoying disc kind of pushing, but not bad. Like, and she goes, oh, we'll just get a scan just to make sure, you know. And then I said, oh, yeah, sweet. So we went to the scan, and honestly, like I did the scan, and usually like it takes like the next day, you're like, oh, have you heard? And they're like, nah, nothing yet. And I was driving, and it was like I was about 5 minutes away from when I left the building, and doc started calling me, and I was like, fuck, like there's only one reason someone calls you 5 minutes after you've had your scan, the doc, it mustn't be good news. Yeah. And she answered, and I answered, and I said, hey doc, and she goes, hey Niall. And I was like, oh, like I already wanted to cry. And at this time, I had just pulled up to get my rego warrant and that done for my car, the warrant done, because I wanted to get it done before I left, so it was done. And I was sitting in this line, it was a big queue because of freaking COVID and all that. Anyway, so I'm in the car, and she tells me like, look, I'm just blown away with what your scan says, and compared to what you're testing, like it just doesn't match up. And she goes, either you're really, really tough, or you're just lucky that you've still got all the strength of what the scan is showing. And she goes, you've got 2 bad disc bulges on your neck, and they're actually both pushing on your spinal cord. And I was like, what the fuck? Like, nah, that can't be real. And she goes, yeah. And she goes, and it's not looking good, but I want to come and see you in person to talk to you about it and actually show you the scans. And she goes, and will Tama be there? And I was just like, what? Like, why does Tama need to be there? And now that I realized afterwards, it was so he could console me and be there for when she left after telling me what she was going to tell me. Yeah. So she came around that night, but after she hung up, I was stuck in this line to get my warrant. And so I'm just in this line for like, I was sat in that line for like an hour and a half because it was real bad because of COVID. And I got to the front, and the guy tells me, oh, your tints are too dark on the back windows or something. But I'd always got in my warrant. So I was like, what the fuck? Like, why now? And he goes, so you're going to have to take it away and get it done and come back. And I just started crying right in front of him. And he's looking at me like, it's not that bad. It's just tints for your cut. Like, you can get them. And I was like, I just, I've always got like, and I was just fucking lost it. And obviously it wasn't because of the tints of the car, it's because of the news I just received. But by that hour, I was just sitting with my thoughts in the car. And by the time I got to the front, I was just fucking lost my shit when he said I couldn't get it. And so I drove home, and then Doc came around that night and I said, I'll come at this time because Tama would have finished work. And she sat down and she goes, okay, I want to show you the scans and this. And she goes, and I want to tell you now because I don't know when you're going to be able to get in and see the surgeon. It might be 1 day, it might be 3 days, because they're quite full on. So pretty much she was telling me because she wanted to tell me the truth of where I was at, instead of thinking I have a 90% chance of still going over these next days until I see the surgeon, and then him telling me, no, you don't, when she just told me, no, actually, like, you've got about a negative 1% going. And she just said, look, this is what I've seen and this is real bad. And she showed me the scans, and like literally you could see the things pushing into the spinal cord. Like it was pretty, like, seeing the scans, I was like, fuck, it was real bad. And I just remember crying and so many things going through my head. And she left, and I said, thanks, Doc, like, I appreciate you coming around and doing that for me. And she's been amazing. And then Tama, like, I just was like, couldn't stop crying, and he was just hugging me. And I think it was all starting to set in, like the realization that I'm not going to be going to the Olympics. And being the competitor that I am, I was going through moments of like pity. Oh, I fucking, this is so unfair, crying. And then I'd have a moment where I'd snap out and I'd be like, no, but there's still like 1% chance I could go. Like, I'm just going to wait to see what the surgeon says, because I still had that hope. And I wanted it so bad to be wrong that I just was like, and then I saw the surgeon, and still to this day, lots of people don't know, but when I went and finally saw the surgeon, which was, I think, 2 days later, he said to me, look, like, first of all, there's no way you're going to the Olympics. Like, I've spoken to a lot of people and second opinions, and like, we wouldn't let anyone play with this. It's just too risky. Which, like, I was like, oh, heartbroken as. And then he turned around and said to me, and you need to think about too, the possibility of never playing again. And I was like, fucking hold the fucking phone. What? Like, bro, I was already crying and besides myself, if not getting told I wasn't going to Olympics. I just worked for the last 5 years. But now you want to tell me that my livelihood might be gone. You're like, what is this? This is the worst fucking day of my life. And then he goes, how do you feel? And I was just like, looked at Doc, who was there with me, like, oh, knock this guy out. Fuck. Yeah, and I guess so that was that moment. And then I went outside and I hugged Doc, and she gave me a big hug and just said, like, everyone's here for you. And the next kind of step is you have your time, and then you probably want to come in and, well, what do you want to do? And I said, well, obviously I'm going to have to let the team know. And that video you talked about was me. I was actually heading into to tell the girls that I wasn't coming, like I'd been ruled out, but I was making a video to send to my family and to other people too, that to let them, because they'd all been asking, and I just was like kind of recording. And so that was kind of just a part of the video that I had sent to family and stuff, to let them know that I wasn't going to be going to the Olympics. That's probably why I was so emotional in the video. Yeah, and then I obviously got to the thing and I saw Doc, and they were all in their team meeting, in the morning team meeting. And I think some of them kind of had a clue, because I hadn't been around training for that last week. I just stayed home, and which was weird, like obviously leaving to go to the Olympics, and all of a sudden I'm not there. And a few girls had messaged and said, are you all good and everything? And I was just like, yeah. And then I didn't want to say anything until I knew 100% that I wasn't going. And so I went in that morning and I did a kind of speech to them, and well, not a speech, I just told them kind of what was happening, and it was fucking one of the hardest things I've ever had to do. I think it was so hard because what it meant for me was, it was like kind of confirming that there was no more chance for me to go, because I had told the team and everyone. Do you know what I mean?
Solidified it, eh?
Yeah, that's what it was like. And I really didn't want to say it, but I knew I had to. And yeah, there was lots of tears in the house, and gave everyone a hug. And then they obviously still had to train or whatever that day. And I went to leave. And so myself and obviously the other girls who didn't get selected, we went up the front, and they had set up to do a haka for us. And that's kind of a tradition with us. If anyone can't make it, has to leave a tournament or anything like that, but and just big things, we do a haka for them. And so it was real emotional being on that side of the haka for the first time. And that was another moment that did confirm that I wasn't going to be going with them. And that was kind of the first time where I felt, it's real weird, where I felt so connected to the team, like the love that we share for each other, but I also felt so alone in that same moment, because I knew they were all going to get to go and play for a chance, for this dream that we'd all been working on for the last 5 years, and I wasn't going to go. And so it's quite weird, having these conflicting emotions running through you at the same time while things are happening. And it's been, even when they left, there was different moments on that journey that was really tough for me as an athlete and a person. Seeing them run out for the first time at the Oceania tournament, which was the pre-one before Olympics. They did quite a nice gesture where no one wore number 4 in that tournament, which I thought was really special. Maybe cry, but seeing them play was really tough. And then it was kind of okay, because all they were doing was training over there, and we were just training back here. So I was like, oh, that's sweet. Like, you kind of get into a rhythm. And I think that's how I helped cope with things, was I was like, I'm going to be the person here that leads this group back home. That's my purpose now. And so all those girls that were still back here who didn't get selected, I was like, yeah, I'm going to be that person for them. And it gives me my purpose. And I was enjoying it. And then obviously the selection day came for the Olympics. And that was real tough. I cried a lot on that day. We had training, and then I was at home, and I just cried and cried and cried. And that's just me being honest. And it wasn't because I was jealous of them. Like, it was more so because I knew if I wasn't injured, I'd be there and I'd be in the team. And then that day passed, then they trained, and then I went back to being okay, and just training. And I was ticking off things back home. So I pretty much got back to full training without contact. So I was doing everything at bar contact, and I felt really good. And then we FaceTimed in for the jersey presentation. And fuck, that was real tough. Listening to everyone's speeches about what it meant to them and why they were there, and then seeing one of the girls get presented the number 4 jersey was just, and she spoke about me a little bit and playing for me and my family, and I just, it was just so tough. And if you're being honest, there's a lot of different emotions that run through you when you see that. Like, you think, like, I was so proud that I'd left my mark on that jersey, where she felt like she still was going to acknowledge me in her speech of when she's getting it for her Olympic campaign, and she still acknowledges me, and that was like nice of her. And then I felt like it was unfair, like it should be my jersey. I earned that spot, like, put my name on it. It's like, and it's never like, don't get me wrong, like it's never from a bad place. It's just from my feelings and what I've been through and how I feel. But I would never say that she shouldn't be there. Like, does that make sense?
Yeah, of course. So it's just the fact that, especially the fact that you were supposed to be there and then you couldn't because of like unseen circumstances. Like you didn't know that you weren't going to be able to be there, and then suddenly it happened, and 100% you'd feel like that, like I should be there. And like we always say, like we've said so many times in this, the professionalism and that side of things is, it's not personal. It's nothing to do with them. It's the fact that you couldn't be there, and you really badly wanted to be there, which I think everyone listening at the moment will know, can tell by this sort of podcast how much it actually meant to you. It's making me emotional, this story.
Well, yeah, so like I said, like we had put a lot of our energy and time away from families and that to build the culture that we had, we had challenged our coaches, they had challenged us, our S&C, like plenty of times to be better at physically, you know, so we could dominate more. Like, what else can we do? What's something we could do different to set us apart? And we'd done that for the last 5 years, and we'd gotten ourselves to a point where I could literally say they could take any 12 from our squad of 21 and they would have won the Olympics. Like, we just were in that place where I just felt like we were going to win, and there was no other result for us. And so that's another thing that kind of hurt, was I know, like, for a fact, I was a big part of helping build that. And so, you know, when you are a big part of it for the whole 5 years, go to every single tournament bar one, you know, turn up to training every day, all that kind of stuff, and then you see the gold medal around someone else's neck, it's like, fuck.
Yeah.
So
Years of it too. What I wanted to ask you, which I'm not sure, were they allowed to bring you home a gold medal?
no, you only so surprisingly, they actually gave 13, which must have been a change, because usually you only get 12 medals. So at any tournament, you only get 12. Even at the Olympics, you get 12. So Sheree Kaka and Michaela Blyde were actually 13, 14 at 2016, but so they didn't play, but they didn't get a medal.
Wow.
Only the 12 did. But this time around, they changed it. Like, I think it was 2 weeks out from the tournament, they said that 13 could play. So that brought actually Tanika Willison into the playing squad. So you could play any 12 at a time, and one would be a sub, like someone wouldn't strip up. But which obviously meant, like, now Nix is in it. Like, she's not just there to with a tracksuit on, she's fucking taking a playing strip. So, which was really cool for her. And yeah, so she got a medal too, which was really really nice for her. But no extra medals come home. And you know, when I think about it too, every tournament we go on, and that, like, I always think now, fuck, you know, none of our management or anyone get anything either. Like,
yeah.
But it's just such a big part of it too. And I actually thought about that when I was watching them get their Olympic golds, and then the coaches all come in at the end of that, and I was like, oh fuck, they don't even get anything, but they've been such a massive part. Like, obviously they're not playing, but when you're a team that's so close, you realize how much they do too. Yeah, and I had some cool conversations with the girls. You know, like, I think you saw me, it would have been on Channel 1. I went in and did some I did the live of the game with Sarah Kelly and Sumo. And yeah, that moment when I can't remember what happened in the game, something happened, but I knew, like, they got the penalty and they were going to kick it out. That moment where I knew the gold medal was theirs, just all these emotional, like every single emotion I've talked about of my whole past 5 years plus this last few months was riding through me. And I think that's why I was crying, because it was just almost like a relief too. Like, yes, we did it. Like, we got the gold medal, what we deserve and worked hard for. And then the other side was, but I'm so fucking sad and upset because I'm not there. And
Oh,
are you there, bro?
yeah. Sorry, I think Cam died.
And then and I think the other hard part was, like, fuck, all the people saying, you know, it's just as much your medal, and like, I love that and that, but as a competitor and an athlete, it's not my medal because I didn't play the tournament. I didn't strip up those 6 games. I didn't take the field. And that's just me. Like other people might feel different, but that's me. Like if someone was to put a medal on me, I'd be like, oh no, like I can't accept it because I didn't play in that tournament. Fucking, I played 150,000 games before that, leading into, but I didn't play those 6 games. And so for me, that I don't deserve a medal around my neck. But I feel like, in which I have been acknowledged in the journey and the process. So that for me, that's enough, and that's enough to that's like my gold medal. And I said it before on one of my posts that it was quite funny over the last 6 weeks, the people who have come through for me and been there big time for me, like my family. I'm like, I said in my post that I was like, sometimes your gold medal doesn't look like everyone else's, and like sometimes you've actually had it all along. It's just about acknowledging it and realizing it. And it's sad because it takes sometimes like moments like these for you to realize. And they've definitely been my gold medal, my family, like my partner, my kids, all my first family, my partner's family too, and my closest friends. You know, they've been there continuously for me throughout this time, checking in. And obviously a couple of the girls that I'm really close with, always checking in. I called Gossie the other day when I was flying somewhere, and she just said, look, when you're ready, I'm ready to share the medal with you. And because she understands me, like I said to, like, no, please, like, I don't want someone to rush up to me and try and put a medal on me or anything like that. Like, I don't want that. And when I'm ready, I'll come and I'll see the medal and I'll acknowledge it and I'll have that moment, but I just can't at this stage. And for her to say, like, yeah, when you're ready, and understand me as a person, that's that next level friendship, you know. And that's that that heart, like being considerate, not just thinking, oh, I've won a gold medal, so you should be happy here, have it. Like, understanding my journey is different, and that even though I'm happy for them, the situation doesn't always match up. Like, you can't just fucking be in that moment and be like, yeah, I want to wear your gold medal. Like, so definitely fucking, it's been a journey. And I went and had a second scan on my neck, and it came back. Well, so one of the discs had healed, so I got the green light, and which was, he said he was real amazed, like he couldn't believe how much had gone down by itself, which was real cool to hear. And then he just said, though, but the other disc still hasn't gone down enough where he's prepared to let me play again. So I think that probably the blessing from COVID and New Zealand Rugby not sending any teams overseas this year is that I don't have anything to rush back to, and they've given me another 8 weeks to rescan. And so that's kind of mid-October-ish when we kind of just get back from, well, leave. And then it's just kind of go from there. And there's obviously still the outcome of maybe not being able to play again. And then there's the outcome of it's healed, like you're good to go. And then there's the outcome of you're going to need surgery probably and then we can discuss, and you might be able to play again, but then you might not. So when people see me in my journey and they wonder what's going on with me, that's where I'm at. That's why I'm living in limbo, kind of, if that makes sense. I don't know what's going to happen. I know what I want to happen. I would love to keep playing. I feel like I might be 33 and some of these girls are like literally 12 years younger than me, but to me, fuck, I was in that top 12. Like, I was, bar injury, I'm still one of the best, 12 in that top 12 in the world, like, playing. So that's when I'm like, that competitive side comes out of me, because you have all the data. Like, there will definitely be players going, okay, yeah, so you got to move on now, all that stuff. But fuck, why should I move on if I know that I was going to be in the top 12, just 3 months ago. So yeah, that's pretty much where I'm at the moment, fucking just living in limbo. And that's why at the start, how I said I've just completely kind of left that athlete kind of to the side a little bit now and just been doing mum, because I can't really do much else.
Yeah, I'm a massive believer in like, if it's meant to be, it'll be. I've always been like that, and not that to be honest, I don't have any doubt that you're going to be playing again. Like there's no way in my head. There's no, but at the same time, always like we always got to think. I guess like we think of other people's lives and what's going around the world, and we just always think like there are, you know, big things going on in the world, and you know, for me to be worried about, you know, not playing again, you know, not that it's not massive, because it fucking is, that's huge. Always grateful for the fact that like we don't have the problems that some people have around the world. I always try and think like that, like what's going on in Afghanistan at the moment, like holy shit, imagine being a part of that. But yeah, like I said, there's no way in my head that you won't be playing, and I'm expecting to see you at the next Olympics. What do you reckon? Because that's you got one less year to wait now, since it's 2021.
Yeah, I'll probably be old enough to be some of those girls' mums by then, but nah, you know what, like
I reckon you'll be there. I'm calling it now, 2 years early.
all right, mate, I want to jump on that bandwagon, because I'd love to be at Olympics and win a gold medal. I'm not ruling anything out. Like I said, I'm just trying to focus on the present, because if I get too stuck in what's ahead, if it doesn't come out, it can be another kind of whole bloody roller coaster ride. But I just wanted to say something on like you know how you talk about being grateful because of that perspective of like other people's lives and how it is, and I'm massive with that. Like I am continuously saying, you know, to the girls, eat your dinner. You know, some kids don't even have dinner, and I'm not talking about like third world countries. I'm talking about like in this neighborhood. Like, you know what I mean? Like we have lots of big things happening here in New Zealand too, with poverty and all that kind of stuff, and as well as around the world. And I couldn't imagine being in a world where in a country where, you know, like as a woman, you're not allowed to walk around the street, or you can't be seen outside and things like that. What I did want to touch on is in saying that too, I feel like a massive thing that happens in New Zealand is we feel like sometimes people can, not ourselves, but other people compare us as athletes and the life we live to things like that. And then they try and make your feelings or your emotions not valid.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, and I think that's a massive part on why people don't, as athletes, don't be more vulnerable, because they're scared of judgment. They're scared of people saying, just be grateful that your life that you get to live. And then it almost is like, so me putting out that video of how I knew that there was going to be some backlash from certain people, but I knew the majority would resonate and hopefully take something from it. Yeah. And that was me saying, yeah, I'm fully grateful. I'm so happy that we had those scans and that I didn't go and break my neck and be paralyzed, and my kids have to look after, you know, paraplegic for the rest of their life. I'm 100% grateful for that. But I've worked my ass off for this too for the last 5 years, this one moment, and it's been taken away from me. And I'm a human being, and I'm allowed to be upset, and I'm allowed to be sad, and I'm allowed to voice it on my platform. And if you disagree, then you're a part of that problem that is our youth suicide. That's 100%, because you get, if I read some comments and I stopped reading because people were calling me names and saying all this stuff about me after that video got put out. And I just was like, this is why people don't do it. This is why we're scared to be vulnerable, because of judgment like that. And that's what drives people. You try and finally be vulnerable, and you in your most vulnerable state, and you put it out there. And it's for all different reasons. People do it for all different reasons. Some really need help, and they're like, I need help, like come and help me. And some do it, like for myself, as a part of that healing process. Some do it to like, you know, like every human being, we need that reassurance. And for me, people sending in nice messages and saying they support me, they helped me heal. You know, that it's from strangers, from people I knew. It was all a part of my healing process, which I'm still going through. But the fact that there were some people who said negative stuff, and I was at my most vulnerable state at that time. It can be so detrimental to people, and if you're not strong enough, you think, well, fuck, I finally said how I really feel, and I'm so upset, and all I want is a helping hand or some reassurance. And then you said that to me, well, you know, why am I here? There's no one there to help me. Why should I carry on? Like, people don't understand how bad that can be, and their comments. So what I'm trying to say is it's you always have perspective in your life, like we do, because New Zealand, we have it a lot better than a lot of countries, and we'll never ever disagree with that. But don't ever feel like your feelings and what you're going through is not valid, because it always is.
That's so true. And like, to me, purpose is everything. And like, who is someone to say that like your purpose isn't valid? To, like, for some people like yourself, I would say, like, fucking being at an Olympics or playing this game that you love is almost as important as eating. And who is anyone else to say that is not as important? Like, are you God? Like, can you say that something's more important than the other? 100% agree with that. And I think that's a good thing to talk about, a good thing to put out there to people, is that it's not what you're talking about or what your issues are. They don't have to be valid to someone. Someone doesn't have to validate it. There's no God that says, okay, yeah, that one's valid. You can complain about that one. It's important. I'm 100% on board with that. I rate that. I'm gonna run through this Q&A, because we could sit here and talk all day, but somewhere to be. I remember you getting on the beers, so we better run Q&As and keep everyone happy. We'll just fire through them. Your daily routine.
Well, now it's, sorry, that noise in the background is my dog. Now it's going to be getting up. So we get up, Buster. Sorry, he's. It's get up in the morning, get the kids up, breakfast, get them ready, uniforms, hair, brush the teeth, school lunches, get them out the door. And then for me right now, it's just going to be a little bit different, like chilling now, because obviously it's usually the girls the whole day now, but they're back at school. So yeah, I'm not sure. I did say to myself though that on Monday I want to start kind of getting back into it. So definitely will be a couple of training sessions during the day, just while I'm by myself, and then it goes straight back into mum mode when the girls get home. Then you know.
What inspired you to get into playing sports?
Oh, it was just something that was that we just done as a family. Like, my parents put all of us 4 kids into athletics when we were young, and then we just kind of grew from there. So yeah, probably my parents. Yeah.
How do you manage being a full-time athlete and mum?
Family support, 100%. I would not be able to do half of the stuff if it wasn't for my family and Tama's family, especially Tama's sister Jules and her partner Ben. Everyone cracks up because they're like the girls' adopted parents. So since they were both born, she's always been that kind of middle person who has helped look after the girls when, say, Tama had to be at work and I had to train and there was not, she would be like, yeah, I'll watch them. Just like, you didn't even have to ask, you could just turn up literally and drop them off. So yeah.
That's so important, eh? Like, obviously I've got my first son now, and like, just to have someone there, like, to be able to go, oh, we want to go somewhere, oh, like, we want to go out and have dinner with our mates or something like that. Having someone,
you don't feel guilty.
Yeah.
Like, you don't feel like it's a burden. Like you just, yeah, hard out.
Agreed. What's your pre-game hype song?
Oh, pre-game hype song. I'm quite like a person who likes songs that you can sing along to rather than like a handy ass song. So I'm always kind of like, I love like J. Cole and Drake and Nisha Mystic are usually on my playlist. Yeah, they're probably like my main ones that I like. I'm quite a person who kind of sticks to certain groups or singers, and But honestly, if you listen to my playlist before we, like, if I don't always have my headphones on, but when I do, like usually in the bus leading to the fields and stuff and that, it'll be like, you'll be like, what the hell? Because there'll be some slow songs, some fast songs, sing-alongs, yeah.
Yeah. Your favorite sevens trip you've been on so far?
Ooh, probably the Dubai trips, because when we go Dubai, we always get to go to Abu Dhabi, and our mate there, he always looks after us, and he hooked it up. So you know how they have the Formula One racing there? Yeah, so he hooks it up. His name's John Larkins, and he hooks it up to get us all tickets. So the first year, he goes to me, oh, I can get, we were still in Dubai, and so Abu Dhabi is kind of like about an hour and a half drive or something. And he goes, oh, I can get 5 tickets. Oh, sorry, I can get 4 tickets, I'll get a car to come get you, drive you to the thing and come back on the day off. So it was done. So we had done training that day, and then the next day was our day off. So I said to our manager, come on, man. It was Nelly at the time. Come on, please, like, let us go. And then she was like, oh, I can't just let you in the car, like, you drive into a bloody different. It's like he's organized the chauffeur, and he's going to meet us there where it gets dropped off. And I twisted her arm enough, and so me and 3 of the other girls went, and I can't even remember who it was. I think it might have been Geordie Weber, Gossie, Ruby, and someone else. Maybe I can't even remember, but we all went, and it was Rihanna. And so we watched Rihanna live. Then the next, yeah, I know. And then the next year I said to, because I know him through touch, but he went over there and made a big name for himself, and he looks after the big grounds where everyone plays cricket and stuff. And I said, he goes, oh, come on, we'll try to get used to do a training camp here too in Abu Dhabi. And I said, oh yeah. So we hooked it all up anyway. So then he got tickets for the whole team, and guess who was playing that one? It was J. Colbert.
Oh my God.
I know. And I had only kind of learnt about J. Cole through Tama, my partner.
Yeah.
And so when I said, we're going to a concert, and he was like, oh, me, what are you going to? And I was like, J. Cole. And he was like, fuck off. Like, he goes, you only know like 2 songs, and he was so dark, eh? And I was like, J. Cole, and I was like, yeah, singing the song. Like, the girls had no idea who he was, but I was like, yeah, like, I'm sending him videos, and he was like, you can fuck right off. Like, he was so dark.
So pissed off. I would have been so pissed off if I was him.
Yeah, it was pretty mean though. So that's probably, yeah, Dubai, just because of those trips we get to go to in Abu Dhabi.
Paris 2024.
If my neck comes right, never say never, eh, bro?
Messaging from G Fizzle. Brother's shadow, does it bother you?
What's that?
Brother's shadow, ? Does it bother you?
Is that G?
Yeah.
Bloody Susan, cut it out. What shadow? Gee, I'm in the sunshine, baby.
Do you have any other big goals you'd like to achieve?
Yeah, I definitely, it's quite funny. I've always, so before I did this, I did a couple of jobs, but one of my main jobs was as a postie, and I loved that you walked in, you threw up your own mail, then you went out by yourself and you delivered your mail, and that was your job. Like, so I didn't have like necessarily a boss or someone telling me what to do. And I think here too, it's like, yeah, if people you answer are coaching that, but you're almost kind of like your own boss as well, because you control how you act and what you do and everything. And so I'd really love if I could be in a position where I was like that as well, like I could carry on doing something like that. Probably I'm studying at the moment to be a youth worker, so I would love to do anything kind of in that area. Like I said, even being a mentor for some of these young girls who are coming from school or outside of the program into the program, just helping them get that competitive edge and the understanding of what they have in front of them, and it not taking them 2 years to do it. Because some of the girls, you know, in our program now, they're thriving now, but like it took them like 3 years, and just they could actually make a bigger impact in their life and rugby a lot earlier. So yeah, and I would love to, I don't know, do something along the lines that has sports in it, or like something for mums. And yeah, like heaps of people always say, can you make a can you make an app please for like mums and training and all that kind of stuff? Because I always get asked like, what do you eat? What's your training and all that? And I'm like, you guys forget, this is like, I always have to reiterate to mums, my job is to train.
Yeah.
So because I think, you can get caught up with what I look like and pictures I post, and I'm like, but yeah, I might look like that, but it's not always the time. Like right now, I don't look like how I look like in season. God, that's for damn sure. But I train every day. That's my job. You go to a 9 to 5, and then people are expecting you to train. I know what that's like, and I know how hard that is to train after doing a 9 to 5. So that's a little bit of perspective there. But I'd love to probably do something like that where I can motivate other mums or
I like
whatever.
that.
Yeah.
Do you follow much of Samoan culture? Can you growing up, and can you speak the language?
So my dad is obviously Samoan, but he never spoke Samoan around us growing up. I know he can with his family and that, and his mum and stuff like that, but nah, we never were kind of like, the closest we got was being in the Samoan group at school kind of thing, in primary. So, and to be fair too, I did kapa haka as well. So I was probably better at kapa haka than I was when I went in the Samoan group. But I would love to learn more, but it's just one of those things. I feel like I'm at that age, when you get to a certain age, it's hard to learn things like that. Whereas my two girls are surrounded by with tamas, because Tama's actually Samoan Fijian Pakeha, so his name's Tama Ali'i. Everyone thinks he's Māori because people call him Tama. But his mum can speak Samoan in the family, and so when my girls are over there, they always speak Samoan to my girls, so my girls can speak more Samoan than me. And I'll try to say things sometimes, and they're like, look at me like, Mom, that's not how you say it. I'm like, whatever. But no, I'm proud of my Samoan culture, and everyone obviously says like, I'd love to learn more and stuff, but just with my schedule and everything going on at the moment, like it's probably too difficult to take up something massive like that. And because I'd want to do it justice too, not like,
Someone asked to ask you about the best school touch team, Avondale.
828, baby. 828 Dale State. Yeah. We played, Avondale College. We were actually the first women's team to, sorry, my dog, that's my dog. We were the first Avondale College women's team to make it through to like nationals and stuff like that. So I'm real proud of that. That was in that 2000 to 2005 era. Don't judge me, count how old I am from there. But yeah, I loved my Avondale College days. It was so much fun, and all my best mates played in our team. Well, I made them play in the touch team, and we used to go to like regionals and things like that, and we just had like a good time. But we were all kind of good at sports, so yeah, good times.
What advice do you have for 30-year-old mums wanting to give rugby a go for the first time?
30-year-old mums wanting to give rugby a go for the first time, probably first make sure your bodies can handle it, because it's quite a physical sport. Like with myself too, when I started playing rugby when I was 26, and I was a mum of 2, but I was just far too kind of weak, as in like injuries and things like that. So I think like if you want to go into contact, you really have to be no, I'm not saying go out and pump weights and stuff, but make sure your body's in a state where it can physically handle contact. So maybe start small contact, like on pads and wrestling and things like that. And then before you get into like full on contact, because it can be quite a big stress on your body. So just to be more safe rather than trying to just be the hero.
Yeah. Nice. What was the biggest lesson you learned from missing out on the Olympics personally?
100% who I am as a person outside of Niall, the rugby player.
Nice.
I had to relearn everything about me that made me happy still, because it took away. I was so unhappy. I had to think, why am I so unhappy? is it because I feel like I'm nothing without rugby? Like, who am I without rugby? So always learning who I am, and then understanding like, no, like, no, you're still Niall, a great mother, a great partner, you know, a great person. And one of the messages that one of my mates, his name's Francis Ledger, he's a league player from up in Auckland, but he messaged me and he said, you know, like, you're still, no matter what, if you went to the Olympics or didn't, or if you're a Blackfern Sevens player, you're still, they call me Niali, but you're still the Niali that we love, and we'll always love you. And for me, just that one message, I was like, it made me feel so much better, because we all have our life journey. So I obviously, like, they were my best group of mates. It's actually my Thomas friends, and I met through him, but they're like my best friends too now. But we had this life, you know, and then I make this team and we move away, and you kind of like lose touch a little bit, but you every now and again you catch up when we go back to Auckland and things like that. But knowing that they still love you for who you were before, instead of, we don't love you because you've made it big in rugby, we love you because we loved you as the person you were. And so it's finding that again, and getting those messages to, like I said, like reassurance, like I'm more than just a rugby player.
Yeah, that's awesome. That I guess that's just like that thing also, like what I sort of said around like the thing, like it's meant to be, if it's meant to be, it'll be. And when stuff happens, it kind of like, you realize that those sorts of things, like you realize, wow, like my 9-year-old's smart. Or like,
Yeah.
realize stuff and things happen and you're like, shit, this is like, you know, there are reasons behind things happening. And it helps me sort of realize other important things in my life, maybe more than I haven't been realizing, because I know that's happened to me a lot. Like things have happened.
Yeah.
I missed out on a 20s World Cup because I did my foot, and shit happened during that time. I actually started my physical clothing business, and now it's led to me starting this. So like,
Yeah.
Ian has now showed me that like the be will be, and some things happen for a reason sometimes. So, but I just want to thank you for your time, and for jumping on. We've been on for like 2 hours, but I
I'm
appreciate.
sure you'll be able to edit it down to whatever.
No, we're posting the whole thing. We're posting the whole thing. Unless you want to cut something out, just let me know. But thank you. Yeah, just thank you for your time. Thank you for sharing your story, being so open and vulnerable about it. People are going to get a lot from this. I talk to my guests, like they don't realize that the impact. A lot of the time, they don't realize the impact they have on people that are listening.
Yeah.
After it happens, and you know, you change people's lives from this sort of stuff. So appreciate your time. Appreciate you jumping on. Is there anything you want to finish with?
Nah, just, yeah, thanks for having me, bro. And I appreciate, you know, you're saying all the things that kind of might impact, but obviously, like you had a big, massive impact to all your following too, and that, and it's like cool to see people like us just doing our thing and trying to help people along the way. I think that's the most important thing that you can do if you have a platform, is how you use it and how you kind of impact people's lives. And all I hope one day is, if people remember anything, it's that I help them probably either get through something that they thought they might not could have. Wait, what? You know what I mean? And then the other thing is that I hope that I inspire someone else to do well in any capacity, whether it was on field or off field. If they thought, yeah, like Niall helped me kind of, you know, get through this, and helped me to inspire me to do that. Like, that's all I want to leave behind. I don't want to live or be for the accolades or anything like that. And it's kind of funny, it's changed over the years, but I just want to be a good person, and hope that people, when you leave the room, that when they speak of you, it's good, you know? Yeah.
Well, you're walking the talk, so keep doing you. Appreciate it. Thank you.